Hello everyone, good morning. Nice. Thank you so much for walking so far from their entrance to here. It's a 1+ mile to attend our session, and that too having a awesome sunshine on the outside. Getting into the room is hard, but thank you for making it. And I hope you all having an awesome conference so far, and we have just a couple of sessions more to get into the attendee party tonight. So are you excited to attend that? Awesome. Okay. By the way, my name is Mohammed Salim. I'm part of Skype for Business beta team, and my team works closely with TAP customers, technical adoption program customers, who deploy and test the upcoming Skype for Business products. I have a troubleshooting and support experience of 10 years in this product. Anybody who worked on LCS 2003 here? Raise their hands. Wow, awesome. So I started my support with Microsoft with supporting LCS 2003 and going LCS 2003 to Skype for Business 2015 now. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is. Am I live?
On.
Hi, my name is Dave Howe. I am a senior program manager on the customer experience team with the Skype for Business product group. I've been in support 14 years leading up to it. I've only been in the product group for the last year. Written countless white papers, TechNet documentation, KB articles, you name it. But today's session is my very first public speaking engagement. And thank you. Considering that the room is S404, I was hoping many of you wouldn't be able to find it. But anyway, thank you so much for coming out this morning. We really appreciate it.
Okay, so let's start going. To set the stage up, set the expectation. So this session is not about giving you a step 1 to 10 to troubleshoot and fix a particular issue. This session will give you an overview. If you have an issue, or if you have an issue in Link 2013 or Skype for Business 2015, we will give you scenarios to look at and different aspects to look at. What are the components you need to go through, and what are the resources available for you to troubleshoot and fix your right road towards a resolution. So the requirement for this session will be familiarity with Link 2013. Of course, soon you all will be learning Skype for Business 2015 as well. And different understanding of different components is also important. We'll talk through this. And the key takeaway from your session, this session would be understand a bit more how to approach to the problem, how to approach to an issue before you call for support. And also an insight, what we do from our support side. For example, you are a customer, you're calling in for an issue, what we do usually, how you troubleshoot, how you split up the things towards the resolution. We'll talk about that. Covering an agenda, we're going to talk about overview of troubleshooting, different components involved, different scenarios involved in troubleshooting, fixing issues in Skype for Business servers, and how important to scope the issue, particular to this product. It's a huge application. We'll talk through it, and some troubleshooting resources, important resources which you should know of if you are an admin or if you are working with the Skype for Business product, or if you're working on the product. Of course, we have a couple of scenarios landed up for you to which a couple of scenarios are Skype for Business server specific, and some of them are Link specific, Link 2013 specific. Great. Skype for Business is a huge product, and who agrees that Link 2013 is a huge product which connects with everything? Awesome, it's a huge product, right? It has a different modalities by itself. For IM, we use different protocol, different connection methods. For web conferencing, we use different. For audio video conferencing, peer-to-peer call, you name it, you have all the complexities, all the hugeness into one product. And another awesomeness about this product is this product works along with all other components as well, like AD, certificates, firewall, load balancer, you name it, the complex technology in IT, we use it. We use that, this product will be using it. Also, this product is so critical. Let's think about the criticality of this product. Sending an email. If there is a 2 seconds in sending and receiving an email, is that going to impact a big impact in your company for users? Might not. Technically, it's an issue, but 2 seconds delay in sending and receiving an email, it's not so much. But how about a delay in sending an instant message from one person to another person? It takes 2 seconds of delay. It's an issue. You have to fix it. Think more. How about 2 seconds delay in a desktop sharing? You're sharing with your friend, you're showing him something or something, and it shows up after 2 seconds. It's frustrating. It's a bigger issue. Furthermore, think about you are on an audio call with your friend and you are saying hello, that hello reaches 2 seconds, after 2 seconds to that person. It's a disaster. The person will drop the phone. So one side it's a huge product, complex, which works with all the modalities, with the different components. The other side is a highly critical. If something is down, so your email is down, you can call the support. Your phone is down, how you call the support? That's the criticality of it. So to have a better understanding and troubleshooting this issue, first thing is you should have a working knowledge about this product. First, you should know how it's supposed to work to troubleshoot what is broken. So, because every modality has a different protocol, different way of connection, the best thing what we can suggest you is, we have a protocol poster. If you have not downloaded, that's your saver for you. Download the protocol poster. That will give you, for different scenarios, how the protocol flow will be, how the connection flow will be, what are the protocols involved on that. Is HTTPS on one side, it's SIP, TLS, and what's going on, what else. Also, symptom. The more time in the support, what we get cases in the call saying that, okay, let's say user is not able to log in. That's not an issue actually. That's a symptom. That could be, an issue could be something bigger than that. User is not able to log in is just a symptom. How you drive through the symptom to the problem, that takes how efficient you are scoping, how efficient you are thinking through. That will help you to progress from symptom to root cause. Once you find the root cause, it's easy to fix it. And also intermittent issue, that's the toughest issue to troubleshoot. When somebody says, hey, I'm seeing this problem randomly, for example, address book search issue, that's an awesome thing. When you search, user is not showing up. So when they will have an issue, they will log a call. When we are on the call, when you call the customer, when you call you saying that, hey, can you repro it? No, it's not happening. Okay, do you know when it happened? In the morning. Do you see this problem every day? Not sure. Do you see this? Is anybody else see that? Not sure. One of my friends saw that sometime before, 2 years before. So you will get those. So intermittent issues are very tough to troubleshoot. So a scoping, narrowing down to a particular right path will help you to hit to a resolution. Talking more about criticality of the scoping. Since the product is huge, so many components involved, whenever you get an issue, anybody reports an issue, first thing to check, eliminate the possibilities and so that you get a granular understanding of what is going on there. For example, address book search, the same example. When somebody searches for the other user in address book, they are not getting the results. To drill down, to scope down, start from, is that one user issue or multiple user issue? Is that user connecting to one server, particular one server having this issue, or all the people are connecting, all the servers are having issue, or is it one pool or another pool, all pools, or if it is an external user facing this problem or only internal users. So scoping down will help you a lot. Now we have different clients, a type of clients. If somebody says mobility client, you will ask 3 questions. Is it iOS or Android or Windows Phone client? Is it internal or external? And it will be awesome for the new setup. New setup, users is not able to log in or address book. It could be a configuration issue. Scoping better would help you to understand the issue better so that we can resolve it soon. Would like to share one of the scenarios what we worked on a couple of months before. We introduced a new feature called server-side conversation history. I hope you all got a chance to attend a session delivered by our friends Kaushal and Meeru related to mobility. They talked about server-side conversation history. We got an issue, customer filed a case with us, okay, hey, server-side conversation history is not working. So I was the fortunate one to get that call, got in. So I asked, hey, did you configure everything? They said, yes, we configured every step what you have given me, but your server-side conversion is not working. So I believed them, got into the troubleshooting. We troubleshooted for 5 days. Another awesome part was they have an on-premise Skype for Business server with the Exchange online. So we troubleshooted everything. One thing we missed was I have not checked is that setting is enabled on the client policy or not. I did everything. I checked server logs, I'm collecting server logs, I'm collecting online logs, I'm collecting Exchange, I'm opening a case with Exchange online to see, hey, something is broken on your server with this user, all those. But we ended up, after 5 days, we ended up, small setting in the client policy is not enabled. That's part of configuration. So that can take you, so a simple problem can take you days or, which should be resolved in minutes or hours, it can take you days or weeks to resolve if the scoping is not perfect.
So to be an effective troubleshooter, it's important to take a few minutes and think through the issue, right? If you deep dive straight into tracing without thinking through, you can end up kind of in a bad way. Because if you look through some of our trace logs, you'll see errors that you don't understand. You'll see warnings that don't apply. So make sure that you think through the issue, and what we're going to go through is what you should think about whenever you do have a support issue come up in your environment. So, like I said, think through it before you start collecting data. Because if you haven't thought through it, what data are you going to collect, right? This helps you to know what to look for and where to look for it. If I have a person who's trying to sign in through the edge and I'm tracing on a mediation server, that makes absolutely no sense, right? So thinking through it will help you figure out where you should target your troubleshooting. Like I said, whenever you do collect the data, be mindful of what it is that you're searching for, and don't get distracted by red errors, yellow warnings, whatever, because they may not apply to the same call flow. If you look through a server-side trace, you'll see overlapping connections, overlapping conversations, overlapping phone calls. And just because you may see a 404 doesn't mean that it applies to the conversation that you're interested in. So stay focused and don't get distracted by the details. And lastly, avoid the silver bullet approach to troubleshooting. Those of us who've been in Microsoft support, who've worked for Microsoft, understand this to be kind of, you hear a problem and you think you know what it is, and you deep dive into it with the customer. You spend hours and hours, because you figured out, you know what the problem is. Well, because you took the silver bullet approach, you've now rat-holed yourself, and you're going to have to backpedal because that wasn't what the actual problem was. You made an assumption based on your previous experience or knowledge without fully thinking through and being open to, considering all possibilities. And that unfortunately happens to all of us. And when it does happen, if you do that, you'll end up in a bad way, and it's usually on the most critical call you can think of. When starting to think about troubleshooting, think about the server roles that may be involved in a particular scenario, right? For this scenario, we have a remote user who's trying to place a call to a PSTN mobile user, right? So we have our Skype for Business remote user. He signs in through the edge, who hits a director, that then ends up on his front-end server, right? Then places a phone call. The phone call is routed to the mediation server that's associated with the front-end pool, routed out the voice over IP gateway or SIP trunking provider, and rings the mobile user, right? So by thinking through which server roles are involved in that call flow, I can identify that the failure could be between the front end and the user placing the call. Maybe it's a misconfigured dial plan or normalization rule, or it could be a voice routing policy that's not applied to the user, or it could be a break between the mediation server and the voice over IP gateway. Maybe the gateway's down and there's no redundant path. But thinking about that call flow and the various server roles that call flow traverses will help you kind of isolate where to begin troubleshooting. The next thing to think about is your traffic flow and protocols. As Mohammed mentioned, we have many modalities: IM, video, voice, desktop sharing, PowerPoint sharing. All of these use different ports, different protocols, and traverse different server roles, right? So when you're thinking about the problem at hand, thinking about which protocols are involved. And in this scenario, we have an internal user who is trying to join a meeting, upload a PowerPoint, and view it, right, and share it with others. First, he establishes a SIP call with the front-end pool, then browses the Meet URL because he's doing an ad hoc conference or a scheduled conference. We join through HTTP to the simple URL. We then set up audio-video because now we're joined to the conference, and then the user attempts to upload a PowerPoint, which is then stored on the file store over SMB, and we get the coordinates from the Office web app server, which is used to display the PowerPoint and render it to the user over HTTP. So anywhere in that path, that call flow can break. What I'm not interested in is whether or not, maybe something happened with the mediation server. It doesn't make any sense. Think about the protocols and the server roles that are involved, and that can help you determine, I'm not going to troubleshoot something, with PSOM if my user can't hit the WAC server over HTTPS. So just think about it that way. Our product also has, sorry about that. Our product has also a number of dependencies, right? There are many core service dependencies as well as extended feature dependencies and hybrid, right, with Office 365. Our core server dependencies are Active Directory, DNS, IIS on the local front ends because we have to support web connectivity to web components. We also have certificates. We also have Windows Fabric, and I'm not sure if all of you are aware of what Windows Fabric is, but it's a subsystem that runs on each server that provides high availability for applications and services. And Windows Fabric, in order for our services to start, Windows Fabric has to be in a healthy state on that server. It runs on all servers, or is installed on all servers, but may not be used on all servers. You will see it on enterprise pools and standard edition servers. We have a huge dependency on SQL because we use it for our local front-end instance for writing to our local databases, as well as committing transactions to a back-end. That back-end may be configured for high availability, mirroring, clustering, and now always-on availability groups. So, think about these core dependencies whenever you're troubleshooting. The next would be extended features, like I can completely deploy a brand new Lync or Skype for Business environment without Exchange. Do I need Exchange? Absolutely not. Everything would work except Exchange integration, calendaring, and things like that. So if I want Exchange features, I have to do certain things to make it work with Lync. I have to make sure that my auto-discover records for Exchange are available. I have to make sure that I have the right not permissions, but authentication protocols configured. And if any of that breaks, is it a Lync problem or a Skype for Business problem? Maybe, maybe not. But think about if somebody's telling me that they can't retrieve their list of calendar items and display it in the Lync or in their Lync or Skype for Business client, I'm not going to troubleshoot Skype for Business right off the bat. I might start looking at Exchange and see if there's something wrong there. We also have dependencies on SharePoint for Smart Search. And finally, our hybrid dependencies, either ADFS or dir sync with password sync with Office 365, as well as making sure that if I'm expecting a hybrid feature to be available, that it's not just configured for on-prem, but maybe there's online service settings that need to be enabled as well, right? So be mindful of that. And lastly, we have third-party devices. These could be on your network, could be changing involved in your call flows and your protocols, and they could be, if they're misconfigured, either a contributor or a contributing factor to the behavior or the actual root cause. Some of these devices include firewalls, load balancers, voice over IP gateways, switches, even WAN accelerators or optimizers, right? Any one of these could be misconfigured and contributing to the problem. One issue that we had recently on my team was we deployed a brand new perf lab. Huge investment, a lot of setup, a lot of configuration. And we're nearing the end, everything seemed good, and then we tried to hit our dial-in conferencing page, right? That didn't work. Got a timeout. We then tried our meet URL. That also timed out. Tried to browse the web service, and try to hit the auto-discover service from our web browser. Same result. So obviously something's wrong, right? Start troubleshooting. One of the first things I suggested was to run Network Monitor or Message Analyzer on the actual edge servers themselves, looking for a specific port, which would be 443, and either browsing it from our web browser or using something like Port Query to send a request. And if it comes in and I see it land on the edge server, not on the edge server, but on the reverse proxy, great. At least I know the firewall's working and is allowing the traffic through. I did that. Guess what? It landed on the reverse proxy. So okay, I got that all figured out. The next step was to trace from the front end and from the reverse proxy's internal interface, right? Because the flow would be through the internet, through the firewall, through the external interface of the reverse proxy, through the internal interface of the reverse proxy to the front end. All we saw was requests coming in and no response from the front end server, right? Why not? You got the traffic, why didn't you respond to it? Looked a little closer, and the source IP address coming from the reverse proxy was the external IP address assigned to the external interface. That address was not routable or resolvable on the internal network between the internal interface of the reverse proxy and the front end. So the front end goes, I can't send a packet to an IP address that's not on my local network. Black hole. Can't send out. Problem was a NAT configuration problem on the reverse proxy. Once I enabled NAT, the IP address that was used was 172.16.1.10. Front end goes, hey, I know that address, mine's .20, and everything started working perfectly. So be mindful of those third-party devices because they will get you. Now that we've investigated and understand scoping and potential impact and the scope of impact, and we understand and have considered the third-party devices, the protocols, the server roles, and dependencies, now we're going to look at some of the troubleshooting tools that we would use to try to resolve some of our more common issues.
Great. So there was a time we just had only one logging tool, part of server in LCS time, just only one. You have to set logging with the level of login, and you just the logs and open the notepad. You have to just go through everything. Now we have a 90,999 tools available for us to troubleshoot any problem, but you should know what tool to use in what scenarios. For a user login, what to use it. For example, if it's an address book issue, is it a mediation issue, is it a call flow issue, it's good to know, or it's must to know what tool should be used to collect the logs or to help you to troubleshoot and to resolve the problem. We are going to cover some of the tools which is be useful for you to troubleshooting Skype for Business issues. Again, it's all subjective. It depends on the issue, what tools you choose. Starting with the link connectivity analyzer. I think it's not new. It's been there for a while. This tool is a vital tool for you to, in specific to new deployment. This tool is a vital tool for you to test your reachability to the server. For example, give a username, password. It will going to check what are the URLs or web services URLs, particularly for mobility scenarios. For example, you are setting up mobility. This tool is a vital tool for you to check is that everything configured perfectly or not. This tool also given advantage of trying your internal setup as well. So this is a downloadable tool. You download and install on a machine. You can try with the user credential log in as an internal user, log in as an external user, as well as if the user is on Office 365 on Skype for Business Online, you can still use this tool. Only one thing to take care about this tool is you should download the right bitness of this tool. So if you have a 64-bit of OS, you have to download a 64-bit version of Link Connectivity Analyzer. And there are different scenarios. This tool will be helpful to you, like new setup to ensure all the things are configured, your firewall is configured, ports are open, networks are fine, web services are configured, web services are reachable, your load balancer is accepting connection. All those scenarios can be tested through this tool. Of course, the mobility one, that's a key one, we started using it. It's a downloadable one, just search for Link Connectivity Analyzer. I hope this will be renamed soon as a Skype for Business Connectivity Analyzer. It's a free download from Microsoft. Okay, the other tool I'm going to talk about is one of my dream tool, I could say, starting from troubleshooting LCS. There are situations where you find issues in a bigger setup. For example, a pool which is having 6 front-end servers. Let's say a customer calling us saying that something is not working. Address book is not working. Let's say, take the same example. To troubleshoot, I need logs. For getting logs in OCS or link times, I have to run an OCS logger. You might be knowing about OCS logger on all the 6 front-end servers, log in on all the 6 front-end servers at the same time, start logging on all the 6 front-end servers, repro the issue, take the logs and analyze it. Think about a bigger environment where they have 10,000s of users. In 6 servers, you will be ending up with gigs of logs, that to multiple logs. You have to analyze, go through one by one, first to figure out which server the user is hitting to, then you will analyze what's going on there. This tool, a CLS logger, this concept is introduced in 2013 itself, but in Skype for Business, you are going to get this tool as an UI tool in a UI. So this tool, this is awesome. So this tool, there are a couple of great advantage if you are using this OCS logger or anything. The first one, if somebody asks you to collect the logs through OCS logger, the first problem what we hit to is what component to select for issue. This tool will give you an option with the known topologies or with the known scenarios. For example, I am in presence, audio call is failing, or something else is happening. We have defined some known scenarios. You just select that scenario. The tool itself will select all the required components, required logs to be collected for that particular scenario. Of course, we will do a demo in a minute. That's the first great thing. The other one is this tool is going to connect to CMS and it's going to pull all the topology of your infrastructure, so that sitting on one machine, you can run a logger which can collect logs from all other front ends or any roles in Skype for Business or Link you are choosing from there. The only requirement for this is if you are running this tool from a management client, you make sure the client has access to CMS database so that it can read the topology. Isn't it awesome? I feel it's more of my dream tool than that. This tool is not released, it will be released soon for a public download. We just want to show you some demo about this tool, how this works and how this looks like.
Can I have a short question?
Sure, go ahead.
Have this tool used to read the logs as well? So you can get the logging and then you can read the logs as well?
Yes, we have a snooper.
It fires through.
Yeah, we have a snooper which is integrated with that. So as long as you have a snooper on the same folder, it's going to open its snooper. We're going to show that, see that. Sure.
Sorry. Connectivity analyzer, is it when it goes to Skype, will be updated to support dual factor authentication and certificate-based authentication, or just username and password? I'm only thinking about scenarios where you want to be able to test those features as well.
Well, the features as well.
Like the dual factor authentication that now is supported, and client certificate authentication that is supported. How can we test those with a tool that gives back better logs than just using it?
Gotcha. So you're talking about an analyzer kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great feedback, yeah. Okay, So give you a sneak look about this tool. So this is a OCS logger. I'm sure. Can you guys able to see it? I hope I can zoom it. So these are the scenarios we talked about. So it gives you different aspects. We have scenarios around 25 scenarios, and you can also create a custom scenarios. Okay, you don't want anything in known one. You want to create your own scenarios. You can create it. You can check what are the components you need, the logs from. You can create your own scenarios. You can just update, hitting just an update button. It's going to update those scenarios to all the selected machines or pools. And this one, okay, these are the options available in this logger. Like we talk about that in a minute. I want to touch the topology one. So this connects, you don't need to feed in any server name. It directly connects to CMS database of your deployment, assuming that the machine where you are running this from has an access to a local AD, has an access to a CMS database. It pulls up entire topology. It gives you all the available components in your roles in your topology. What we just need to do is we need to select where you want to get the logs from. As in a particular pool or particular front-end server or mediation server or edge server. Yes, this tool can collect logs from edge server as well. The only requirement is this tool should be run from any one of the internal systems, and they should have an access to edge server. Edge server, you cannot run this tool from the edge server because the requirement is this tool needs access to Active Directory. The options what you get in this tool is, so this is not only collects the log from all these servers, whatever servers you are selecting to. Another awesome part is it collects the log as well. For example, just single click, collect the log. We're going to show the demo quickly. So collect the log, and these are the details. It's going to sum up, so it's going to query all the front-end servers, all the roles, take the logs, put it in a single file. It's going to give you in a single file. So troubleshooting issue, it will be easy with one file. We can just go through, we can filter it out. Even the get logs will filter with respect to user as well. Okay, filter with user at domain.com. You can get the logs, filtered logs from the gigs of collected logs. It can filter, it can give you a snippet of log where it will be useful for you to check and troubleshoot. To go over this quickly, these are the different options we talked about. And I'm just choosing IAM and presence over here. Just select it. And if you select IAM presence, you see that by default required components for IAMs are selected. So here for IAM and presence, SIP stack is by default, it's automatically selected. And to select the servers, either you can select all, which can select all the servers over here, or you can go, oops, oh, it's the wrong button. Okay. So here you have an option to select a particular machine or particular pool or multiple machines. You can select it from here. So once you select this, there's an update option. Just hit update. What this is going to do is it's going to update because we are collecting logs from all other servers. So this is going to send out the information. Hey, these are the scenario. Update all the scenarios with these details. And once you update this, hit start logging. Now it's sending a command to all the servers, what you have selected on the pool or servers. It's going to start the logging on all the servers. Upon repro of the issue, you can just stop it. Another great thing about this is on the down bottom, you will see what the command has been issued to the servers, at what pool it's going to, what front-end server it's going to. And if you select the verbose, it's giving you some more, it will give you some more detail what this tool actually doing in the background. If you want to write a script, of course you can do it with the log, what the commands, what it's using. And assuming you report the issue, hit stop. So it's going to send the stop command to all the servers. And here is the get logs option, where you can filter out this for collecting the logs. So you initiated the logging, it's collected, it's there, you want to see in a log file. So get logs options, you give a name, and give what level of logs you need. If you want just last 5 minute logs, just click last 5 minutes. You're not going to waste your entire hour logs or entire logs on it. Click OK. What's going to do is it's going to connect to all the front-end servers, collect the logs, convert it, put it into a readable text file. So this is good. So for opening the log, we have two options. Either you can open with Notepad or you can open with Snooper. So hitting just Snooper over here, it's going to launch the Snooper. It's going to give you all the transaction, which can help you there. This is about the logs. You're going to soon, this will be released, and you can have a hands-on with that. You will love it, believe me. Sure. Yes, link 2013 backend, because the CLS logger is already available in 2013 as well. But if you have 2010, it's a time to upgrade.
Can you start repeating the questions?
Yes.
Because we can't hear it.
Okay, so is this feature is for using this feature, can we collect logs from a 2013 servers? Answer is yes. If you are running 2010 servers, it's time to upgrade. Okay, going back. This tool, snooper.exe, I'm sure that nobody will tell that I don't know about this tool, who are involved in this UC. Anybody is new who don't know about, who have never heard about this tool? Awesome. I was thinking to give a t-shirt, okay. So this tool is a vital tool. So everyone uses this tool for SIP transaction, doing a SIP transaction. You know, this tool also comes with other features. You can open a normal logs. You can you can search for the errors. So there is two buttons over there on the Snooper. You see one is a message where we see all the SIP transaction. There's the other one is traces. Try to use the traces. Traces you can just filter out the error messages and transaction what it's used for. Seeing the time, I'm not showing the demo of this snooper.exe because we already been using it. I'm just going with that. We have some of the scenarios lined up. There are other useful tools which you can think about is connectivity analyzer. This is an online tool, so you can just open up a browser, go to this, you can just search in the Bing, you'll get that link. Just go to the tool, you can give a credential, that can check the login and other details. It can show you if there's any error or anything. This is a vital tool. Again, another vital tool if it's a new setup what you have. There are n number of tools are there like network monitor. It's very useful in case of handling audio video issues to check the network transaction. And another awesome tool I want to mention is Fiddler. So if you're troubleshooting a mobility issues, authentication issues or anything, Fiddler is your friend. That will give you all the web transaction, all the SSL transaction which is going between a client and the server. That's a vital tool. And logs, there are a lot of logging options. It depends on depends on scoping, what do you want. It's all again subjective. So if it's a client issue, you have a client logs. If it's a server issue, you can use a CLS logger. And there are other different logs options are available, like talking about a simple installation issue. You have a temp folder. So whatever you install, for example, you're firing up the Skype for Business installation, we file everything on the temp folder, the logs. So if your installation is getting failure, you have facing some issue in the installation, it's good to check on the temp folder with the log, which will have a log file, which will give you some more details for you to troubleshoot further to fix that issue.
All right, so let's take a look at a couple of troubleshooting scenarios, and I'm going to be honest with you. Some of these are kind of simplistic, some of these are gotchas, but the one thing they all have in common is these are actual support issues that were called in by customers, either from our TAP pre-release pool of customers that we have in our programs, or by in-market customers running our existing versions like Link 2010 and Link 2013. But every single one of these were phoned in by customers who needed assistance with troubleshooting. But like I said, some of these scenarios are a little bit simplistic, kind of a corner case, but it still gets the results we need for this demo today. Okay? All right. This one is specific to Skype for Business Server 2015. The symptom is the front-end service fails to start, right? And if we apply what we've talked about earlier, our first step of troubleshooting is scoping, right? So, what's our scoping questions? Are we dealing with an enterprise pool, or are we dealing with a standard edition server, right? Because the front-end service runs on either or all, depending on which configuration you have. If you have an enterprise pool, how many servers are in your pool? Is the service failing to start on one server or multiple servers, right? Because it may be running on some and failing on others. And if you've ever dealt with a service startup problem or a cold boot issue where you're starting up all the servers at the same time and then you run into a problem with a couple of them, you need approximately 85% of those servers to be online in order to bring up and start all the services and allow users to start making connections. So that's our initial scoping questions. Second, did anything change recently? Right? Did you guys, or whoever the customer is, take the servers down to install OS updates? Did you accidentally leave Windows Update on your enterprise pool, and suddenly all the servers got an update and all servers rebooted, and now they're stuck because they lost quorum in Windows Fabric? Windows Fabric requires that 85% servers to be online in order to start up, and if you're having problems and if you accidentally installed Windows updates and they all rebooted and a couple are having problems, you may not be making that 85% threshold. Did you take anything offline to install Skype or Link updates, right? Link server update installer to install a cumulative update. Did anything like that happen? Or did you experience an unexpected service outage, right? Did the SQL backend go down? Or did you, blue screen a box or something along those lines? But these are important questions to ask because it tells you where to begin troubleshooting. And finally, has the front-end service ever started successfully on this server? No, you laugh. I'm serious. This is a question you need to ask because, at least from the Microsoft support side of things, customer calls in, that may not be something they immediately disclose. So I'm thinking the entire pool's been down for hours or days or whatever. Come to find out, they never actually got the service started to begin with, right? And there's a deeper, more fundamental issue there. So that's kind of our scope, right? Let's take a look at the actual scenario. All right. I'm using the wrong mouse. There you go. So this is the front-end server that is having a problem. It's actually one of two. FE05 and FE07, the pool can't, or the front-end service can't start on those servers. And this is impacting the ability to bring the other remaining servers online, right? Because we can't meet that 85% threshold. One of the first things you should try to do if you're having a server with a startup problem is to go to that server, and if it's Skype for Business server, right, run connect-windows fabric cluster. If it completes successfully, well, at least Windows Fabric is online. And you may be looking at a Link or Skype for Business server issue, right? If you have a communication failure, well, there's a bigger problem there. It may not be Link or Skype for Business specific. It's probably a problem with Windows Fabric. That distinction is important to note because if you ever need to call in for assistance with troubleshooting an issue like this, the first thing you can tell the engineer that you get is, hey, I ran this commandlet. Windows Fabric Service isn't even online. It can't start. And the support engineer goes, whew, you just made my job so much easier to troubleshoot this issue. Because it's probably, if you got in touch with a Skype guy, it's probably not his problem, right? It's probably something that needs to be addressed by the Windows team. But that's an important distinction to make whenever you're troubleshooting a startup problem. So let's look at, well, actually, you know what? I don't even care why this server is failing to start yet. Let's go over to our front end on one server, right? And how many of you have ever had a service startup problem with Link 2013 that involved Windows Fabric? By show of hands. Did you ever, what was your workaround? I mean, you know, I know that there's a lot of problems involved, but did you ever have the ability to work around it and start the services up while troubleshooting? No, usually you're down, and you're down until all the servers are ready to be brought online. Well, we took that feedback and the complaints that we got from customers, and we made an investment in a new commandlet called Start CS Pool, which is available in Skype for Business Server. And this commandlet allows you to have a more granular control of the service startup experience, right? A routing group in Windows Fabric is responsible for delivering services to groups of users, right? And the more users you have in the pool, the more routing groups are assigned and load balance between the servers in that pool. Any one of those routing groups has a problem starting up or being distributed among the front ends can cause the entire pool to fail to start. Just one routing group, one problem. So we made some investments in commandlets that allow you to reset a problematic routing group, as well as being able to skip a routing group when you're starting services, if you use the Start CS Pool commandlet. We also made the investment of being able to skip a problematic server and bring the rest of the servers online and restore service to a majority of your users while you continue to troubleshoot the server that's offline. And in this situation, I had 2 servers offline. I skipped one, which still allowed me to make the 85% threshold to bring the rest of the servers online. And as you see here, I run the Start CS Pool commandlet. I give the option to skip server, and it starts service pending and starts the service startup on all of the servers in the pool with the exception of the server that I skipped. Oh, thank you. From there, a timed event occurs because as these servers are starting up, we're giving you progress indication, which is not something we offered before. How many of you ever ran into a server startup delay and you look in the event logs and it says, Windows Fabric is attempting to place routing groups, and that's all you get. And it loops over and over, that warning or whatever that message is. You have no idea how long it's going to take or where you are in that whole routing group distribution process among the front ends. We took that feedback from our customers and incorporated it into the Start CS Pool commandlet. So now you can see the progress during startup. Control 1. And again, as it scrolls along, you'll see that we're in routing group placement. And then a little further, we start reaching final. And what that means is on that server, we have been able to assign or distribute routing groups to that server that we intended to. The routing groups that we intended to place there were successful. And now we're in the final stages of startup, right? And the further along we go, you'll see now we have a total successful routing groups placed is 2. Total documents associated with those routing groups are 2, and total batches is 1. Now, if I'm looking at total successful routing groups and I'm seeing a value of 2, what does that tell you? Remember, the more users you have, the more routing groups you get, right? So if I've only got 2, it's a new pool, right? I've never been able to start these services successfully. This is my first attempt, and I used the skip server to be able to do so. And in the end, all servers are in the stage of final, except 5, which we know is down. 7 we skipped, 5 was down anyway. But we reach final, and eventually, after a little while, scroll past it, it shows you the service's state. 5 out of the 6 are running, 1 is stopped, and it gives you a warning that the RTC service has failed on at least one of them. And guess what? If this wasn't a new pool and this was an established pool, 85% of your users will be back online while you continue to troubleshoot the problem. We never had that before, and we have it now. So that's a huge improvement. Cool, thank you. So now let's take a look at Server 5, right? And we've already ran the connect Windows Fabric cluster commandlet. We know that Fabric is down, right? Is this a linked server problem? No. Is it a WinFabric problem? Maybe. Or could it be a dependency problem? Very likely, maybe, right? A dependency on Windows Fabric. Something that Windows Fabric depends on may be at fault, right? So let's take a look. The first place when you're troubleshooting a server startup failure, if you're looking to investigate, let's start with the server event logs, right? And in our server event logs, in the application log, we see this exception, and let me see if I can zoom it in. Fabric host threw an exception and crashed. And it's done this, if you look up, repeatedly. That service can't start. Is this a linked server problem? No. Or a Skype for Business server problem? Absolutely not. It's a Windows Fabric problem or dependency. From this error description, can any of you tell me what the root cause is? Okay, fair enough. I couldn't either, right? So we know that's not our answer. We need to continue investigating. So we know that the cluster commandlet failed, communication errors. We know that the Windows Fabric server is crashing, which makes sense. I can't call in and communicate with it because it's not there. What could be causing it? I could start CLS tracing at this point, right? But if the problem occurs in a link or Skype for Business server dependency, an external dependency, and that's where the problem appears to be here, right? Wouldn't you agree? With CLS tracing, which captures Skype for Business server tracing of services, would that tell us anything? Exactly, the services are down, and the problem's in a dependency of Skype for Business server. Would CLS tracing help me in this scenario? No, right. Now, we've checked the application log. We could check the link server log. It's not going to have anything relevant in there because link server's not started, right? Or Skype for Business server's not started. There's one other event log that you guys may not be aware of, but you should look at. And when you look at it, look at everything associated with the problem. And that's the Windows Fabric event log. And that one, if you expand Windows, Microsoft and then Windows, scroll down, you'll see Windows Fabric here. And if you expand that, there's admin. Let's scroll up. So now I'm seeing that Fabric deployer. If I'm seeing Fabric deployer, that means a deploying, very likely it was a problem with the deployment process of Windows Fabric. Either a deployment or part of the startup problem, something that we do for the first time is not working, right? FFFFFFF. What does that mean? Nothing to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next event right here, and I think I actually advanced the slide by accident, but whatever, we'll come back to it. Another install failed, right? A little bit further back, this is interesting. There are no more endpoints available from the endpoint mapper. If you guys are aware, the endpoint mapper is a service that runs on TCP 135, and services register to it, and that service provides to any service calling in the port that the registered service is listening on and the address, right? So it's like I tell the post office where my address is so that they can send me mail and you know, route mail to me. It's essentially kind of what that's like. But if I'm getting no more endpoints available, okay, maybe there's a resource problem, contention problem with the server, or maybe I should just read that call stack a little better. So let's look a little further into the call stack. What do I see here? Enable firewall settings, right? Well, let's go look at what is happening with Windows Firewall. Oops, I hit escape. Hang on. Yeah, I'm using the wrong mouse, sorry. So if we go and look at Windows Firewall, disabled, right? I forgot I did that. I was troubleshooting something. Or maybe it's my corporate mandate that my front-end servers have to disable Windows Firewall in favor of another third-party firewall service that's installed on the box, right? So if your company does this, if you've got your preferred third-party firewall service that you install on Skype for Business Server front ends or any other role, be mindful of the fact that if you've disabled Windows Firewall, we can't start Windows Fabric for the first time. It needs to start one time with the Windows Firewall service running, check and make sure that it can create all the rules that it expects to be able to, listen on, and then it never checks again. So enable it, launch Windows Windows Fabric, let it do its thing, then disable it again if your company uses third-party Windows or firewall services. So that was our root cause on this one. Let me switch back. And I'm on the wrong machine again. There we go. Our root cause, Windows Firewall service was disabled, right? What do we use? Event logs. And remember the Windows the Windows Fabric event log, because it can tell you things. We could have used CLS tracing, but since this was a new pool, and since the service was failing in a dependent service, Windows Fabric, it wasn't going to tell us anything. But in a typical scenario, if you're having a service startup problem, create a new CLS tracing scenario called service startup and add user services, CDB sync agent, RTC host, and LCS server. And that will very likely, if it's not a failure in a dependent service, that will very likely get you the information you need to troubleshoot further. Okay? And remember, with Start CS Pool, we can skip server. We can also skip problematic routing groups. And finally, connect Windows Fabric cluster just to make sure that the Windows Fabric service is online and healthy. That's scenario one. Any questions at all? Yes, sir. Can you come up to the mic, please?
It's really about the fabric itself, not about the troubleshooting thing, but maybe you can answer it. Do you know what's new in Fabric 3?
A lot of more stability, a lot more improvements in dealing with the placement of routing groups when there's slow network connectivity on the WAN. Beyond that, I really am not aware of any others. I'm sure there are, I'm not personally aware of them.
No, because for advice to customers who do want an in-place upgrade on 2008 or 2, where Fabric 3 isn't possible.
We changed that.
Oh, okay.
We listened to customer feedback.
Okay.
And we worked with the Windows Fabric team, and although our initial documentation, our initial webcasts or whatever that we put on, the Ignite events, if any of you guys have, or Ignite? No, whatever. The Summit events, if any of you guys have ever been to them, our initial message was that we encouraged using Windows 2000 R2 or Windows 2012 because we were going to ship Windows Fabric v3 with those two, but for Windows 2008 R2, we were only going to ship v2 of Windows Fabric. And we couldn't guarantee that we would always have the latest fixes backported to their legacy version of v2, right? We heard our customer feedback, we went back and looked at it, we worked with our Windows Fabric team, and I'm happy to say that if you have a Windows 2008 R2 installation and you deploy Skype for Business Server, we will install Windows Fabric v3 and it will be completely supported on that OS.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? All right, let's move on to scenario 2 because we're kind of running out of time here. Huh? Oh, sorry.
Same as my linklab.com, that's the same for link 2013 for PowerShelling and such other thing. So we found the problem, and
So the question is, we had a problem with CLS tracing where if you had an English OS and a German OS and the way that the timing was displayed, it caused a problem whenever you were collecting CLS tracing. To be honest with you, I'm not aware of that issue. If it's something we fixed, I don't know, but I can look it up and try to get back to you if you meet with me after. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Sorry. Sorry I didn't have an answer to your question. Scenario 2. This one is not specific to Skype for Business Server, but it happens to be one of our top call generators, right? Users can't sign in for the very first time, or maybe they've signed in before and suddenly can't, right? So in this scenario, we're going to apply what we've learned with regards to scoping. And our scoping questions are, how many users are impacted? One, a group, or all users? Are they from the same pool? Or could they be from different pools? And are they internally connected to the corporate WAN or LAN? Are they external users signing in via the edge or a reverse proxy in the case of our mobile clients? Or a combination of both, right? So we try to figure out which groups are impacted, or users, or whatever, to understand the overall impact. Because that has a direct impact on the criticality of the issue, right? Which client are they using, right? Are they using our desktop clients? And that would be Link 2013 or 2010 or Skype for Business, our Mac client, or Attendant Console. Those are 3 of our desktop clients that we use. Second would be mobile client, which would be Windows Phone, iPad, iPhone, or Android. The Windows the Windows Store app, the modern app that was developed for Windows 8, or Link Phone Edition, right? Each one of these clients sign in different ways. And depending on the way they sign in and the protocols that they use and the servers that they traverse, really impacts where you begin troubleshooting, right? Finally, has anything changed recently? Was the user moved to a different pool? You know, you never know. So make sure you kind of figure that out before you begin troubleshooting, because it can help you target where to begin. But hopefully nobody saw that. Let's switch back to our environment here. And I'm going to move this mouse out of the way so that I don't use it. All right. Now, in order to troubleshoot a sign-in problem, we have different sets of information that you can gather, right? The first would very likely be if I failed to sign in. This only happens if you fail to sign in. This was available in Link 2013 as well, and in the later CUs, cumulative updates, as well as Skype for Business. But you see this thing called sign-in logs? If I hold Control and right-click on the icon in the system tray, I can get sign-in logs. And if I hit that and scroll down, actually it scrolled up because it comes in backwards. I failed to sign in here. Where's my client? The server is temporarily unavailable, right? When I tried to sign in, that's the error I got. And if I look at my sign-in logs, it says, on enable, fail server not reachable. To me, server's down, right? Would you agree? Or I can't communicate with it. Makes sense, right? That's the error I got. So I go into the local app data tracing folder under Link. And what I have there is a UCC API log, and I grab the latest one, and that contains the errors and the conversation I had with the server, the latest conversation when this failure occurred. Now I can look at that, and it looks like this, blah, 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 right? And it gives me the same error that I saw in the sign-in log. Or what I can do, I can open this with Snooper. Has anybody ever done that before? All right. Dang, I thought I was going to teach you something cool. So, in Snooper, we can read the UCC API logs. If we hit Messages, I now see what's going on. I send a register to the server. In this case, this client is attempting to sign in from the external network. I send the register, and I get a 504 server timeout, which confirms and corroborates with the error that I got in the sign-in logs, right? Is there any relevant information that I can go on for troubleshooting here? Maybe it's more than one user. It could be all users. I don't know. But I get really nothing. And what I can see here is I see 504 server timeout, and I'm a remote user. So that tells me this user is attempting to sign in through the edge. Could it be the edge is down? Don't know, right? But one thing I can do is I can fire up the link connectivity analyzer, right? Let's find out if I can at least simulate a sign-in or check the configuration using either the link Windows Store app option or one of our mobile app options. I'll do the Windows Store app. And I don't know where my scroll bar is, but it's going to try to query our link discover records. Oh, that worked. And then it also complete a test. So at least I know connectivity with web services is working. I can get my link auto discover records back, and this is the summary view. You can hit detail, but if I did that, I would scroll off the screen like crazy. But anyway, I know that at least I can contact web services for auto discovery. Let's tuck this tool away. I don't have enough to go on from the client logs or the sign-in logs, so now I have to go and trace on the server, right? So I go into CLS logger. I create a custom scenario called client sign-in, and we'll look at the settings later. But what I wanted you to see was the actual capture that came from the server and client interaction. We did it twice. We tried to register once, it failed. Tried to register again, it failed. And here's the second transaction, the latest one. I see my register, and I see server timeout. Do I have anything to go on here? Not really, not from these two messages, but what's this? I have diagnostic info because I collected a server-side trace, right? And the diagnostic info tells me that I'm unable to route message from a remote user client because access for remote users is disabled. There you go. I need a t-shirt. Oops, sorry. Thank you, sir. All right. So if I go and I check, and I don't have it open right now, but let's see. Wrong keyboard. Sorry. Let me hit it over here. If I look at get CS access edge configuration, and assuming it runs, you'll see exactly that. I never enabled remote sign-on for my users. And that's the reason why, right? So while client traces can be helpful, they may not be entirely helpful. Sometimes you have to depend on server-side tracing to fix client-side symptoms, right? So let me switch back, and we'll take a look at our summary slide for scenario 2. The outside access was denied by policy. Use the link connectivity analyzer, the sign-in log, CLS tracing. Finally, we created a custom scenario called client sign-in with these settings. And remember, these last two are only necessary if you have mobile clients that are involved in the call flow and the failures. For MCX service, that would be our Link 2010 mobile apps. For UCWA, that would be our Link 2013 mobile apps. And Skype for Business mobile apps whenever they come out. And if you're having a problem with Link Phone Edition signing in, because unless you're using a Polycom CX700, the one with the on-screen keyboard where you can actually put in username, password, if you're using like a CX600 or something like that, you have to use PIN authentication. Make sure you trace the user PIN service component as well. And one quick tip, and I don't know, I should have covered this while I had the thing up. When you're troubleshooting a client sign-in problem, why is that not working? Close. Right? We didn't know right away if the edge was up, right? We didn't know if that connection was actually making it to the front-end server. What you can do is delete my sign-in info, right, and try again. And if I sign in again, if I get a password prompt, the flow of that request made it through the edge to a director or a front-end server, and I'm now being challenged for credentials. I know the edge is up, and I know front end's up. And I know I'm not dealing with a connectivity problem at that point. An important note I forgot to explain earlier, this is something that can help you isolate what the problem is before even jumping into CLS tracing, right? So remember, delete your sign-in info, retry. If you're prompted for a password, the request actually landed on the server. Okay, sorry. Yep. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Let's move into the next and last scenario. Where's that up? And actually, we've seen 2 scenarios. You want to do Q&A instead? Yep. All right, let's move forward to Q&A because I want to give you guys the ability. Where's that up? I can't advance. Okay. All right, Q&A. Anybody have any questions from today's session? It doesn't even have to be related to today's session, but any questions?
Also want to address this.
Yeah, it's up.
I've got a quick question.
Oh, by the way, hold on 1 second. Everybody, before you leave, we have a new Skype for Business Insider program coming up. If you're interested in testing pre-release software, right, and helping us find bugs in the product, please visit this link, sign up, and we'll try to get you into the program so that you can help us make our products better. Thank you.
If you love to experience what is coming up, feel free to do that.
Early preview.
Does that include the Mac client for 2016?
Don't know yet. Don't know anything about it. Yes, sir.
So how successful have you guys used the Cepha util for non-EV users and EV users, specifically around delegate access?
We understand that there's challenges with that tool. We understand it's one of our most requested features is to add the functionality from Cepha util into PowerShell, Link or Skype for Business Management Shell.
So is that something on the roadmap then?
I don't know that it's on the roadmap, but we are collecting feedback regarding that, and we know that that's a often requested feature.
You heard that loud and clear, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
On your scenario 2, when you use the remote connectivity tester, I believe you had it set to internal and not external access. Would that make a difference in your troubleshooting with logs you see?
Yeah, it would. If it did display it, this was just simply for demo, but yeah, it would definitely have an impact. If you're sitting on a machine that's outside your network and you accidentally select internal, that whole discovery process would likely fail.
Okay, thank you.
That's
cool.
a good t-shirt. Great observation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Would the CLS logger capture PSOM traffic and UCCP traffic as well?
If you select the appropriate component from the list of traceable items, yeah, it would.
Okay. So is that the same thing as the CLS, the central logging system?
Yes, it is. It's a GUI front end for it.
Oh, okay. You got a GUI front end.
Yeah, and that was something our customers have been requesting since we released Link 2013.
That's great. And that would work for Link 2013, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Very cool. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So it's a plan when there's new features come out.
Can you step a little closer? I can barely
It's a plan to include central management logging, the call history logging for a mobile client.
Correct.
It's a scenario too. For the problem is that when with this new feature, Exchange, that's we have a new challenge with Exchange.
Right.
So and the problem is that the Exchange team says that's a problem from Skype for Business, and so having a chance to lock the flow to transfer the conversation to Exchange.
Yeah, there's a new component. Well, it's an existing component called List, Link Storage Service, that the front-end server uses. It's a service on the front-end server that interacts with the Exchange backend and is able to archive to Exchange and make UCS, or the Unified Contact Store, possible. That existing service now has a new component called the Server-Side Conversation History Adapter, right? It's just a new module within the list component. And what happens is that module is responsible for writing the conversation history from our mobile clients, capturing that, and writing it into the Exchange conversation history mailbox or folder in your mailbox.
Okay.
And CLS tracing, or the CLS logger utility, the scenario that you would trace would be called lists and UCS. You enable that with all, and repro a scenario where server-side conversation history was logged, and you would see the new adapter being called to store the conversation history item from our mobile clients.
Perfect, thanks.
Cool, yes. Yes, sir.
You showed us an awesome commandlet about the start CS pool.
Right.
How would that work if you have like an enterprise edition with 4 or 5 servers in it and you have disaster recovery? Should you go for the pool failover first, or can you use the start CS pool anyway for troubleshooting?
For me, it all depends on the 85%, right? Just because I have the ability to skip a server doesn't necessarily mean I can have by doing so, I can still have the required 85% for starting from a pool cold start. I still need that 85%, right? Or, I think it may be a little less now, but somewhere along those lines.
It's somewhere about that, but if you have a pool with 3 servers, or 2, which is also supported,
right,
then you will never manage the 85% if one server goes down.
Yep, there are going to be limitations to when and how. And you know what? If you have pool resiliency through the backup service enabled, and you hit a scenario where you can't start the pool using that commandlet with the skip server or skip routing group, fail over, and then continue your investigation. And yeah, there's still limitations with it, but at least it's something. And the progress indication is incredible. At least I can tell what it's doing
nice
now. So very cool. Thank you.
We'll take one last question. We have to clear the dais. We'll be here rest of the conference. We can discuss more. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much for all.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Let
me take your last question.
Yeah.
I have this scenario, right? I have 8 servers in the front end pool, and they put on their blade servers, so like say 2 servers on the one chassis. When the chassis is doing upgrade, like firmware or something, that 2 server will be gone. So definitely we're meeting the 85% requirements, but my concern is, say, just in case that 2 servers are in the same routing group, I read some online article, we still may have the chance to lose that routing group.
Right.
Do you guys have any recommendation for those kind of scenarios?
Yeah, there is this, well, not in the scenario where they're in the same chassis and have the same power connectivity and all that, right? But there's a pair of new commandlets that we have that have made our server patching story incredibly better. It's called Invoke CS Computer Failover, which takes the computer offline and removes it from any of the Windows Fabric load balancing or any Windows Fabric connectivity and requirements, takes it out of rotation so that you can patch it, and then once you're done, you run Invoke CS Computer Failback. It brings the services back online and integrates it back into the Windows Fabric quorum. So in the case where you have a shared power or whatever, you're still going to have to take both servers potentially offline. And if they're within the same upgrade domain or whatever the fault domains, there's not really a whole lot you can do about that. But if you can take them offline separately, then yeah, you can take one down, patch it, bring it back up. And
it's not about the server itself, right? Because maybe yearly you need to do a firmware update on the chassis.
Oh.
So if the chassis is gone,
then there's nothing you can really do.
So we will have temporarily.
Yeah, you'll have to accommodate.
Impacting if they're in the same routing group.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you coming out.
Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks.